and welcome to Lessons in Logic, video number, I think 53 now. It's amazing how many of these there are. And in this video, we are going to briefly overview the basics of what we've been doing for the last several videos, which is the informal fallacies method. So one good definition of logic is the study of methods for determining whether the premises of an argument provide good support for the conclusion. And now we're just going to give some brief systematic remarks overviewing what exactly is the method we're dealing with here when we talk about informal fallacies. For the lower right corner of the screen, we have chosen Mount Longonot in Kenya, which I have climbed, but not for a very long time. This photo, I believe I am free to use here, but I ought to attribute it to its author, or person who took the picture, who is apparently internet user Jat Criswell. Let's relegate that now to the lower right-hand corner and talk about what is this method we're using here. This is a method of testing arguments to see whether the conclusions are well enough supported by their premises. Remember, informal fallacies depend on form as well as on content. It's not okay to say that an argument is a fallacy just because it looks like a slippery slope or appeals to authority or attacks a person or appeals to pity or is one of those other things that happens in these informal fallacies. Some arguments using these patterns are not fallacious. We have to use discernment. So the method then is very simple. It may take a lot of wisdom to apply, but the method is simple. Find out what is the form of the argument, or what is the pattern of reasoning. Find out how we are reasoning about things, in other words. See if the argument in question is the same as one of the forms, one of the patterns of reasoning employed when we talk about these fallacies. And then use discernment. Then state whether the argument is strong or weak and explain why. That's it. It's a very simple method to understand, I hope. May be difficult to apply because a lot might happen in that discernment phase. And now, this video could have ended, but I wanted to do some examples. So here are some things from my old question pool for logic exams. Apparently I had 30 questions. I probably selected a randomized 10 or something for a section of an exam. Here, the instructions would be something along the lines of select the best answer for what kind of fallacy we're talking about here. So here's an argument. 99.9% of university faculty in Pakistan are professing Muslims. Therefore, 99.9% of FC College faculty are professing Muslims. Now, this was a test given on exams. This would have been a question available for exams in a logic class at Foreman Christian College, which is more a college with a Christian heritage than a Christian college. Lots of faculty at Christian College are Muslims. But if you know what FC means in FC College, you might know that this is probably some kind of fallacy. Which is it? Well, I think what we have here is, let's see. Oh, good, accident. We better pause and let me go back and dig up some other notes. Okay, here we are. Accident. Accident is the fallacy of carelessly arguing from a generalization to individual cases which the generalization does not cover. I think I did not pause to give an example for accident. I said we have a good enough list of fallacies already. Let's just keep going. Let's skip examples for this one. But now an example has come up. Carelessly arguing from a generalization to a case that the generalization is not meant to cover. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is an accurate figure. It's probably not. But if 99.9% of university faculty in Pakistan are professing Muslims, does it follow that 99.9% of faculty at Foreman Christian College are professing Muslims? No. And what fallacy would it be that makes that mistake? Accident. This, I think, would be a pretty good example of an accident fallacy. Though it has a lot of resemblance to the division fallacy. Those are subtly different, but not quite the same. I don't think I'm going to explain it. I've said enough about the different fallacies. You can't be thorough in one semester. You can't be thorough in one playlist. There's too many different fallacies, too many different things to say, comparing and contrasting them. And this is not what I felt like, so I'm not going to do it. Here is an argument. Why is it in quotes? I don't think it needs to be in quotes. Brad Pitt says Obama is the better candidate, so we should vote for Obama. This is a textbook appeal to unqualified authority. Now, this and the next two questions are why I wanted to do some illustrations in a video. An appeal to the authority of some actor for the conclusion that you should vote for a particular presidential candidate. Obviously, for whatever year this airs in 2023, you might need to update Obama to Biden or whoever else is running if Biden turns out not to be running for president in 2024. Anyway, some celebrity says you should vote for a particular candidate, and someone else says, therefore, you should vote for a particular candidate because the celebrity said that. That's almost inevitably an appeal to unqualified authority. There may be exceptions if the celebrity has some expertise. Ben Stein is something of a celebrity, and Ben Stein is an economist. So that's one exception. But generally, an argument like this would be an appeal to unqualified authority. But what about this? What if someone says, Brad Pitt's claim that Obama is the better candidate need not be taken seriously. He's just an actor, no expertise in anything relevant, so his opinion carries little weight. That's not a fallacy at all. That's what I just said. But what about this? Brad Pitt's argument that Obama is the better candidate, assuming Brad Pitt also made an argument when endorsing the candidate, is a lousy argument because he's just a silly actor with no expertise. That, even if you left out the silly word, that is an ad hominem fallacy. It's not tu quoque. With the silly thing, it's an abusive. If you left out silly, I would say ad hominem circumstantial. Maybe it's still ad hominem circumstantial, but the best of the four answers available here is abusive ad hominem because we said just a silly actor. Well, maybe he's not a silly actor. Maybe he is. At any rate, it's not irrelevant. It appears to be a useless insult included in this argument. What matters is he doesn't have any expertise. And if that's what you just point out, then fine, as long as the only appeal is to the authority. But if Brad Pitt actually has an argument and you're dismissing the argument because the person who made the argument doesn't have any expertise, you are making a fallacy yourself. You have to look at the argument on its own terms. Meaning you have to look at the argument and evaluate it independently of who made the argument. If the argument is as simple as, I, celebrity, endorse this political candidate, therefore you should too, well, I am the argument, and I have no expertise if I'm a celebrity, unless I'm Ben Stein or some other rare exception. The celebrity has some expertise in something relevant. If that's the case, if I'm not the exception, if I'm just appealing to myself and I am the argument, then it's no fallacy to just ignore me and say my views have no weight. But if I make an argument saying this candidate is the better candidate because such and such policies are better policies, anyone who attacks me on the grounds of my ignorance is making a fallacy because my argument should be evaluated. Whether the premises of my argument supported their conclusion. Are those really better policies? And evaluate whether the premises are true. Are those really the good policies? Does that candidate support them? And if they are good policies and that candidate does support them, does that mean you should support the candidate? When did I put this in? This feels Trumpy. He might have said this in the 2016 primary, but I can't guarantee that. Vote for me because I have the best poll numbers. Everyone likes me. This sure looks to me like an appeal to the people. Ad populum fallacy. There's, I don't know if there's any other way to analyze an argument like that. This may have seemed more relevant back in Pakistan. Shahid Afridi, the great cricket player, supports a particular brand of margarine, and so should you. And he actually did. His face was on the side of one particular variety of margarine, or maybe it was regular butter. I don't remember. This would appeal to be an unqualified authority. This would appear to be an appeal to an unqualified authority. It would seem to be that fallacy. Now, if he gave an argument, that's different. And evaluate the argument. Or if there's any particular reason he personally would be an expert in margarine, then maybe it's not a fallacy at all. I don't know. I'm not aware that he has any expertise in margarine. I'm going to just do two more, and then I'll just skim the rest. I won't skim the rest. I will skim the rest and bold the right answers, and you can look at it, pausing the video as needed if you like. I'm not going to sit here and lecture on all of them. There was an argument. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in passing sentence, I ask you to please consider the defendant's situation in life, that he's a poor man and a member of an unrepresented group in society. This would appeal to this would appear to be an appeal to pity. Now, without having some more circumstances available, I think that's our only answer, namely that appeal to pity is the best answer. Depending on the details of the case, that with some more context, I can imagine thinking maybe this is not an informal fallacy. If the person was being convicted of stealing a loaf of bread and the jury was being asked to be nice in sentencing the person because this guy is poor, I'm not sure I would call that a fallacy. All right. Oh, this is borrowed from some famous quote by some Civil War person. The argument is something like, I know earlier I said we could beat those Yankees with cornstalks, and then the dang Yankees refused to fight with cornstalks. Some Southerner said that after the Civil War. The argument was repeated in, well, the remark was repeated in The Power of Logic by Wasserman, Howard Snyder, and Lehman. This would appear to be an amphibole. Now, I remember having a lot of fun thinking through this argument and thinking through this question in the textbook and thinking, is it really amphibole or is it accent or I don't even remember accident? I don't even remember. There were some subtleties about this that made me think it might have been a different fallacy. This, begging the question, there's no assuming what needs to be proven. There's no appeal to force, and there's definitely an informal fallacy here. The only answer we've got is amphibole. It's got to be amphibole. Now let me just see if I need to explain that at all. I know I said I could defeat Osip at chess without queens or rooks. Unfortunately, he insisted we play with queens or rooks. It might be better to call this a... It might be better to call this an accent fallacy. Now, that's not one of the multiple choice answers given. Amphibole is the best one, where we can take the phrase without queen or rooks to modify defeat. I could defeat him without queen or rooks, but meaning I could defeat him without using my own queens or rooks. But the concluding sentence seems to take without queen or rooks to refer to a particular kind of chess minus the queens or rooks. So you can make a decent case it's an amphibole. But I think maybe accent makes sense, drawing a conclusion from a premise which a keyword or phrase means something different because of a shift in emphasis. So here the shift in emphasis would be, let's see. In the first sentence, it emphasizes the phrase without queens or rooks emphasizes how easily I can supposedly beat him. And in the conclusion, we're taking it to have emphasized a particular way of playing. So this is why I had fun, but also sort of hated that one in the textbook because I had a hard time classifying what kind of fallacy this was. And now that I've said all that, I'm realizing this is the one I never gave you an example for in the earlier video, wasn't it? I did give you an example for accident, but accent is something different. I probably gave you an example for this fallacy, but not accent. Anyway, now here's an example of what might be a decent illustration of accent fallacy. So now I'm going to stop lecturing on all of these and wrap up the video quickly by just skimming these arguments and selecting the best answer available for each of them and not explaining any kind of detail. But you can make comments below and ask for an explanation or email me if there's any need. Plato&Augustine@gmail.com. So number 10 appears to be begging the question. Number 10. Appeal to force, equivocation. Ah, no, that is subtle. I think accent is the best answer for number 10. You have to imagine the right context for number 11, but it sure appears to be an appeal to force ad baculum. Number 12, very simple ad populum. 13, I already gave this example. Division. 14. Composition. 15. Division. 16. Sure looks like an appeal to the people. Ha. Number 17, clear case of accident. Number 18, I'd like to look at more data on an argument like this to be sure, but the best answer available is false cause fallacy. I think by itself it might be fallacious, but as part of a broader argument that looks at more data, this might be just fine. Tentatively. This appears to be a simple appeal to pity fallacy. At least that's the best answer available. Yeah, this sure looks like an appeal to pity to me. It leaves out the whole case that the particular policy in question would solve that problem. Number 20. Well, the best one available appears to be straw man fallacy. Yeah, failure to be charitable to your opponents. I mean, some pro-choicers might be that much of a jerk, but any number of them are not that kind of a jerk, I would imagine. What do we got here? This appears to be a complex question. Number 21, complex question. Number 22, best answer D, begging the question, assuming what is to be proven. This may not be David Hume's actual argument against miracles, and it may be, no, I don't think it's his actual argument. I think it's a silly oversimplification of his actual argument. His actual argument is more subtle than this. It's also fallacious, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to review my notes. But at any rate, it's not this simple, and it's not this easy to tell that it's a fallacy. This argument, let's see. This argument sure appears to be another begging the question fallacy. Here's that argument I'm borrowing from, I think, Chris Matthews in 2008 or so. Appeal to the people, ad populum. I already went over this. This is an amphiboly, number 25. Already went over this earlier video, number 26, equivocation, number 27. Ha, another very silly amphiboly, number 26, equivocation, number 27, amphiboly. Number 28, composition. In reverse, number 29, division. Number 30, composition. And there we are. See you next time.